Hi everyone, my name is Nitya and my pronouns are she, her, and you're at my Flosstube channel, Daybreak Stitchery. This is a channel all about cross stitch and I'm super excited as usual. It's the end of the month and we're just going to have a nice little chat about cross stitch. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm so happy to see you. And if you're here for the first time, hi. I hope you enjoy cross stitch too, and I love talking about it. So hopefully you'll see something that you enjoy here. I don't usually do like a life updates thing. I'll throw in some pictures from the garden. It's officially spring. I'm in the Chicago area. It's officially springtime here. And so lots of different things have been happening in my garden. And so I'll throw up some pictures of, I planted a whole bunch of bulbs in the fall that bloom in the spring. So it's just been kind of exciting to see things pop up. We have different pops of color coming up. Some hyacinths. The winners are the grape hyacinths, these little purple ones that come up. They kind of come up and they've stayed up the longest. So we've really enjoyed that, like the different purples from the garden. Catherine, I'm growing allium and it's coming up and we're super excited about it. The little buds started popping up. And it's always like, I'm not a pro gardener. I don't really know much about gardening. I'm learning as I go along. And so it's been really interesting this month because I'm thinking all over the Midwest, definitely in the Chicago area, we've had kind of all of the seasons happen this month. So our high was like an 82. We had these really balmy, sunny afternoons, followed by like snow the same weekend. The low was like a 35. So it really has an effect on what the plants are doing in the garden. So like our magnolia tree last year, we have a magnolia tree in the backyard that bloomed and the blooms kind of stuck around for a week last year. This year it was just like it happened for a day and then they were gone. It was all leaves. The flowers were gone after a day. So yeah, that's been my besides stitchy stuff. It's been nice to be just kind of looking at what's new and popping up in the garden. I had a whole bunch of seeds I started too. So we're starting like a little sunflower patch, a teeny tiny sunflower patch, and yeah, it's been fun. I'm trying to decide if I should do like a little tiny garden talk. You know how people do like a book talk at the end of Flosstube? I've kind of been playing around with maybe doing a little like garden talk, just like showing some seeds that I'm starting or showing a picture from the garden, just talking about what it is. And I kind of feel like it'd be good for me, just like Flosstube has been really good for me in terms of like getting to know fibers and fabric and strategies for stitching and things like that. I feel like maybe talking about garden stuff would actually make me like research and then have information to share about garden stuff. So I don't know, let me know if that's something, like if I were to tack on a few minutes of a garden kind of chat at the end, would that be interesting? Or, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? People who stick around, and people who don't want to can turn it off. So, okay, I'm going to get right into stitching because it's super exciting. I have 3 finishes. None of them were ones that I was like totally expecting to finish. So, did I organize them? Yes, I do. I have them all right here. So, let me just get one thing and we'll talk about finishes first. Okay, so I did, I binge started a whole lot of smalls this month. I know it totally goes against my sal that I'm doing this year, like focusing only on whips that relate to things I have queued up, and I'm still doing that, but I just got so distracted by all the cool little smalls that I wanted to start this month. So one of them I actually started and finished. I meant for all of them to be starts and finishes, but that didn't work out. But this one did. So this is by Tirazain Initiative, and I'll mention them and link their Instagram below, and everybody else who I mentioned today, it'll be in the notes below. So this was a 5-part stitch along for Ramadan, and so it's, the hashtag for it is just like Ramadan sale, and it's really cool. It's totally free. You can go to their Instagram page and they share it in 2 different ways. So in one is in a post, they have like a picture of the chart, so you could like screenshot that, or you can go in their profile area. They have a link to like a Google Drive and you can download the files from the Google Drive. So I stitched this on 18 count Ada. It's Barnwood by Picture This Plus. It's one of my favorite fabrics. It's like a beautiful brown. And this particular piece was a gift from Maryam. Thank you, Maryam. I actually have 3 different projects that I started on this piece. So you'll see the others eventually too. And I stitched it because it's a moon and star motif. I decided to stitch it in étoile just because it would have that little, you're getting a little bit of the sparkle from the, étoile has like a, did I bring a little bit? Yeah, étoile has this like little bit of filament in it, so it's got some sparkly bits to it. So I thought that'd be nice for a moon and stars pattern. And it's mostly kind of called for-ish colors. Like it calls for a bright red. This is Étoile C666. And then it calls for a bright yellow. This is Étoile C725. And then the blue was supposed to be more of like a purpley periwinkle blue, but that didn't come. So did I bring it down here? You know, my Étoile stash is just from the same box. This is the box of DMC Étoile. It's like a set of 35 skeins of Étoile, and it's like the most popular DMC colors, but they're Étoile versions. And I got this at just like my big box craft store a couple years ago. You know, when they have like the holiday sales and you can get an item for like 40% off. It was a really good find then, and I find myself always dipping into it when I want to play around with Étoile. Like this set is enough where I don't feel like I have to run out and get anything else. So I didn't want to run out and see if they had an actual periwinkle in Étoile because there wasn't one in this set. So I just went with dark blue instead. And I kind of wish I had gone with green because I know like green, ends up being a color associated with Islam. And there are some beautiful greens like this. That green I think could have been really nice, but whatever, it's okay. And so I really like it. The Étoile stitches up really super neatly. I think it's because of that filament that changes the texture of the cotton. So, I mean, there's a cotton strand and then there's like this filament that's woven in that has like that sparkly bit to it. So it changes the texture. So all of the stitches lay super evenly and really, really neatly. Super flat too. Different than, I get kind of an unevenness sometimes with just like regular cotton DMC. I think it's just me. I'm not a neat stitcher. But with the Étoile, it lays really neatly. But it was a lot of Étoile, and stitching this project helped me make a big decision about another project where I was intending to use a lot of Étoile, and I changed my mind after this one because I struggled with it. And I'm just convinced, I mean, I haven't tried them all, so I know it's not a very open-minded opinion right now, but I'm convinced that there just must not be any metallic threads that are just comfortable and easy to work with. I'm just convinced that that must be it. I mean, Étoile is not, I think Étoile was supposed to be it, but it's not. I was stitching 2 strands over the one, 18 count Aida stitch, and 2 things would happen. One is that like I'd have a length of thread I'd be working, I would have just started on a length of thread, and then like one of the 2 strands would split. So I'd keep stitching with the one strand until the other one just kind of caught up. And now I've got like frayed bits in the back. So I didn't like that. And then, what's the other? Oh, like you'd finish a length of thread. You'd finish stitching with a length of thread and you're kind of finishing it off. And then one strand would be like 2 inches long. So somewhere like the tension was off or something happened. It got caught up, one strand got caught up somewhere, so that you'd end up with 2 different lengths of like one would be 1 inch left and one would be 2 inches of a strand left. So it just also felt kind of it feels wasteful. I think it's eating up a lot of floss without giving you as many stitches. So for accents and like small pieces, I think it's great, but I had another project where I needed to fill in like a huge amount with Étoile, and I just like, this helped me decide, no way, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, this is again the freebie by Tirazain Initiative. So they're a Palestinian designer, and I found out about them by because I follow Lina's Thobe, which is another a Palestinian stitcher on Instagram, and they were the ones who posted about this Tirazain Initiative stitch along. So I will link both of their Instagram accounts below in case you want to follow them too. Beautiful Palestinian stitching, both of them. Like Lina's Thobe, she hangs up a lot of her stitched pieces, and they're just so pretty. I really like seeing that, so highly recommend that one. Okay, these next 2 are super exciting to talk about. So I finished my quote by George Takei. So I've been working on stitching a quote by kind of actor. Yeah, he's an actor and writer, George Takei. People know him from, he was in the original Star Trek series here in the US. And so, this is a quote of his. I don't know if I'll get it to lay flat. I should have ironed it. So the quote reads, "We should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity." And I've stitched his name. I think last time you had seen almost all of the quote, but I finished the quote. I had started putting in some of these decorative medallions. I hadn't put in the border, so I put in the border. Maybe I'll just hold it up large so you can see. There you go. Yeah, I finished it. So I put in the border, I finished the quote, and then I filled out, I made this kind of band of these sort of medallion star sort of things. And those medallions come from Stitch Idées magazine. There's a pattern in Stitch Idées magazine, the latest one, it's volume 39, and it's a pattern by a designer called Comfortable Daily Life. Comfortable Daily Life. And they just have, it's like a grid of medallions. So I chose some of those and put them in. And then I thought it looked kind of sparse, so I made up my own just little kind of random little bits with a different shade of blue and put in little, like more little stars. So it kind of looks like a galaxy, like a star galaxy kind of look. That's what I was going for. Kind of a nod to his Star Trek, you know, background. So I'm pretty happy with this. I didn't really, you know, when I started it, I knew I wanted to stitch the quote. So the font from the quote is by, it's a cross-stitch font that you can get by KristyPatterns on Etsy. And it's called 10 Small Fonts. So it's one of 10 fonts that you get in the pattern. And then you can stitch whatever you want. I imagine, like, this is probably for people who, like, stitch samplers and put initials in, right? So that's what I think, you know, when you buy a cross-stitch alphabet, it's usually for that. But it's so awesome to stitch quotes with it. And now, like, I love the idea that this is going to be on my wall because I love this quote. And then you kind of have this, like, you have all this space to play around with. So I wasn't sure when I first stitched it. I just knew I was going to do the quote, but everything else I just came up with as I was stitching it. And I really like how it turned out in the end. So that font, the font with George Takei's name is, I think it's a I think I found it on Lord Libidan. That's a Lord Libidan font. So yay, a finish. And that means I can take a whip off of my too long whips list, my unfinished whips, works in progress. So I'm really happy about that. So we'll see. I haven't been fully finishing anything because I usually kind of do it in spurts. Like I bought a whole bunch of frames way back in my like December or January video. I showed you a whole bunch of framed stuff. So I haven't been picking up any other frames. I'll probably wait some time before I pick up my next batch of frames. So, but this will get framed and hung up. Okay. I'm going to pause here. I'll be right back. Okay. So, this is a total surprise because I didn't think I was going to start this next one this month, and I definitely didn't think I was going to finish it. But I was at one of my happy places, which is the DMC section of the craft store earlier this month because I had to get more of this DMC, I think it's 308, this blue that I used in the quote. These are all DMC colors. Oh, I didn't tell you what I stitched it on because I don't remember. I think this is Mushroom Lugana Edinburgh Linen, 36 count, and this is all different DMCs. So this is 308, 823. I think it's not 939, but it's like the next lightest one, which I think is 823. And then it's 799 is the dark or lightest blue. So anyway, I had run out of the 308 to stitch the rest of the quote. So I had to go to the craft store and just grab a 308. And you know when you're in the DMC aisle and you see all those colors, it's so inspirational. I just spend a lot of time. If I find myself, I can't just like go pick up DMC that I'm missing. There's always something that catches my eye, or I like find myself just staring at all the colors and kind of like mentally taking an inventory of like, okay, I think that green is DMC 470. Am I right? Yes. You know, and just kind of like putting to memory all these different colors. And there's a color that popped up. It's DMC 915, and I didn't bring it down here, but it's like a bright fuchsia pink. And I had been going to pick out, I'd been kind of thinking about colors for Stitchybox companion to Beatrix Potter. This is a piece I had queued up and I finished work in progress that I needed to finish first. I kind of made myself finish before I could start this one. So I had kind of entertained my different, floss and fabric combinations for this. And so when I was at the DMC section, I picked up a couple of the brown shades that I was looking at, a DMC 300. Did I bring it to show you? DMC 300, it's really pretty brown. Bright, it's like a very bright brown. And then a DMC 400 as well. So this is 300. I picked up 400 as well. It's a kind of, I can't remember if it's a little bit darker or a little bit lighter. One is a little bit darker, one's a little bit lighter. And those are the two colors I wanted to use for the Stitchybox sampler. And then I saw that fuchsia, that beautiful DMC 915 fuchsia. So I thought, okay, that's going to actually complement these brown tones really well. And then I picked out a green. And so I went ahead and stitched, well, a version of the Beatrix Potter. This is the companion to Beatrix Potter. So Stitchybox took two samplers. These are kind of Quakery samplers. Two samplers that were not stitched by Beatrix Potter, but they were in her collection. And so there's an original Beatrix Potter sampler, and then this one's the companion piece. And I picked this up at from the clearance section of Abby Top Knot Stitcher last year, I think. It was when I was shopping for one of the, like, either Expo or Market, and I always look through Abby's clearance items. She's got some really good stuff there, and like this one, for example, it was like, those clearance items sometimes will be like $4 or $5 less than at like 1-2-3 Stitch, for example. So I'll usually check prices and see if it's something I really want to get. And this one had some very cool, just different types of motifs that I hadn't really seen in all of the Quaker Sampler. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking at Quaker Samplers. I like the spot motif kind of nature of them. But there are just some that looked a little bit different, like this kind of, these angled square bits here, and all the floral motif, like some of the flower motifs are very, very recognizable, but I don't know, it just looked different. When you look at a lot of Quaker samplers, you start to, everybody's working from the same library, so you start to recognize motifs. So when you see ones that are just a tiny bit different, they just seem intriguing, Like this one here has these sort of diamond bands coming out of the flowers, and like these angled bits here. I don't know, just some little different things going on. So should I just show you? I'll just show you. This is like my biggest tangent today is going to be on this piece, because I didn't think I was going to stitch it, and then I suddenly got a lot of inspiration from after shopping for DMC. So here's what I did with it. So you can see the medallions around, and then the center has some plant motifs, and then I put in the initials of 4 people. So as you can see, it's much smaller than the picture. Well, so one of the things I've been concerned about is, like, I have so many ideas for new projects I want to start, but I also have so many works in progress that are all, like, I started all of these really large pieces that I just don't realistically think I'm going to finish all of them. And so some of them I'll finish off in smaller versions. And going forward, I just want to be kind of thoughtful that not every project I start, I don't want all of them to be large. I don't want to replace all my works in progress that I finish with, like, other works in progress that I will, like, never finish. So, so this has so many different motifs in it. Like, just look at all of these partial medallions that make the border. There are like 4 or 5 along each edge. So I kind of made this little placeholder. I'll show you real quick. So I just drew this little, like on this card, I drew this little, I made placeholders for all the motifs in the pattern. So like, what did I just do with the pattern? So everywhere that there was a motif, I drew a little circle. And then I looked at each motif carefully, and I just kind of checked off, well, which are the ones I definitely want to try? And then I put X's for the places that I definitely didn't, I wasn't interested in tried. So I narrowed it down a little bit. And then from that, I thought, okay, well, can I narrow it down to just 8 of the border motifs, like half medallions? Because then I can do 2 on each side, and I can still get a pretty good sampling of all of the different types of stitches. So that's what I did. I just put 2 on each side. I tried to line them all up. I didn't do any charting or anything. I just kind of winged it. And I tried to just make sure they all lined up so that it made a rectangle in the end. And the only place where I had a tiny problem, which one was it? Not really a problem even. I just had to change a choice. I did all of the motifs or all the way around, and then the last space that I had available was this one right here. Well, I had actually chosen a different motif, but it was too long for the space that there was left. But this pattern has so many different options, so I just chose a different one that was shorter, and it worked out fine. It fit perfectly in that space. So I did all those outer motifs first. I did all the edge ones, and so you can see well, I don't know if you can see, actually, there are 2 shades of brown that I'm using. Yeah, you can kind of see, like on this half circle motif right here, this outer brown is one. It's either DMC 300 or 400. I don't remember which one is darker and which one's lighter. And then like this central brown here is the other one. And on these floral motifs, I did both. Like the outer edges have the darker one and the inner parts have the lighter color. And then I put an accent, that DMC 915, that beautiful fuchsia pink. I used that as accent all over it. Like, look at, this is that, this motif I really wanted to stitch with these, like, angled, square angle. Are you hearing my tummy growl? I haven't ever had breakfast yet. That angled, this, like, stepladder kind of thing I really wanted to do. I thought that was pretty. But they're all pretty. Like, all of these kind of cube, this repeated square thing going on. Like, here there's cubes. And then got a lot of diamonds too. Like there's some interesting cubes going on here. There are a lot of interesting things going on in this pattern. Okay, so then I didn't even think about the center. I knew I had to do something with the center eventually. So I was like, what am I going to do? Well, so, you know, this was in the collection of Beatrix Potter. And way back when, so this is all, I found out about this, I started this was on my radar because of Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. She's doing a sal with this, Beatrix Potter sal. So I've kind of had it on my radar and I've been thinking about it for a while. Well, way back when, I found on YouTube, like a 1 hour sort of documentary. It must have been like a TV documentary about Beatrix Potter, about her life and, you know, her work. And so I had it in my watch later playlist on YouTube, thinking that, oh, when I eventually start this, I'll just let me watch it while stitching on a piece that was in her collection, you know. She's actually a super interesting person. I think everybody thinks of her from the books, right? The Tales of Peter Rabbit books. But her writing career was actually a very, very small part of her work. She was genuinely like a steward of nature. She really loved nature and wanted to advocate for preserving nature. And she lived in the Lake District in the UK. And she was one of the people who kind of founded the National Trust that, you know, looks into preserving like natural spaces and I think man-made things too. But, you know, she was instrumental in kind of starting that whole thing. She's part of that group. So she just wanted to spend all of her time just amongst plants and animals. She really loved being, you know, in nature, outdoors and in nature. And that was really interesting. I'll link that documentary below. I think her story is really interesting, and she grew up as a scientist. Her training is in science and art. Her father advocated for her to study science and art, and so she was a nature illustrator. That's her real career. And it just happened to be that she did these doodles in a letter to a friend of these little bunnies, and that's what became the book. She turned that into the book series, but really her career was like science illustration. And so that documentary is great. It just talks about the different struggles. She was a woman working in science, so run with that. You know, it has been and still is, I think, a struggle to, you know, find your voice if you're a woman in science, I'm sure. So it talked a lot about that. So anyway, I thought, okay, well, since this was in her collection, I'd like to have her initials be part of the piece. And so that was actually really easy to do because the charted bit here, the stitcher of this pattern had the initials MP, or put the initials MP in it. So there was already a P for Potter. So, and a P is really easy to turn into a B. So I had her initials done, no problem. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe since this is, you know, she loved nature so much, I could make this kind of a tribute to like other people who kind of give me inspiration and help me learn about nature, and also advocate, other stewards of nature, people who advocate for protecting nature. So that's what I did. So ANN is Alexis Nicole Nelson, and you're going to know her as Black Forager on Instagram. She's just an awesome person to follow. I've learned so much about local plants from her. She's not from Illinois, but she lives in Ohio, which is 2 states over. And there are some of the plants she points out, I feel like I see here in Illinois too. But she advocates for foraging, which is kind of going into natural spaces, like whatever you've got, woodland, meadow, or whatever it is, and knowing about the local plants, and then kind of foraging responsibly. So you take just a little bit with the intention to use it thoughtfully, and then you replenish that, whatever you've taken, you like plant seeds, or make sure that you're replenishing it so that there's a resource available for the next person. It's a very human practice. I feel like I've read about this in like lots of different native communities have done this. I've read about it in like over centuries in France, people have done it. I think it's like just a human thing to do, right? Like you might cultivate, and even if you cultivate a garden and live off of that, you also are aware of what's around you in nature, and you use it in a way that's responsible and doesn't just like cut off the resource for future generations and things like that. So she talks a lot about that. So I definitely put her on there. She goes by Black Forager, and I'll link her. She'll be linked below with everybody else in the description. C is Cindy Crosby, who is an awesome local naturalist here in Illinois. She's a prairie steward. So like our ecosystem in Illinois, we have forests here, but our big kind of ecosystem that we're known for in Illinois is prairie, especially tall grass prairie. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's like super tall grasses. They're like 10 feet, 10, 11, 12 feet tall. And they are just awesome. They're just one of the coolest things if you get to see or walk through one. Like we have a restored prairie near us that has a path going through it. And it's really like wonderful for all the senses, because when you walk through tall grass prairie, and if it's like even the slightest little bit of wind or breeze, there's this beautiful kind of like very comforting white noise sort of swish from like all the tassels on the grasses. They just sound so cool. And then they're really soft to touch too. So they're amazing. And then a lot of wildflowers grow in there. A lot of birds kind of perch on these grasses and pick at the little bits. And it's really good for like the prairie grasses have really deep roots. So it's very good for like rich soil. It enriches soil because it pulls nutrients from very deep up top, and then it also kind of prevents erosion because it holds the soil down in place. So I love prairies, and so Cindy Crosby has kind of been instrumental in teaching me a lot about prairies. She has an Instagram account too. She goes by Freelancer, so I'll link her below too. She keeps a newsletter just about different Illinois prairie topics, and I've taken workshops with her too at the Morton Arboretum. She does a lot of nature writing and nature journaling, and so her big thing is about just like slowing down and just observing nature. Just stop what you're doing, like sit outside quietly and try to notice everything. Notice what you're hearing. What are you seeing? Like the tiniest little bristle of a leaf blowing in the wind, or different shades as colors change and different plants and things. She's just, I think it's like such a good lesson in just slowing down, being aware of how fast-paced your life is and just appreciating the nature around us. She does a really cute thing on Wednesdays. She treats herself to a like some kind of dessert or treat that has whipped cream on it. She calls it Whipped Cream Wednesdays, and then she reads a nature book, and she shares it on her Instagram page. So if you like reading about nature, definitely follow her, because she's I've gotten some good book recommendations from those Whipped Cream Wednesdays. So Cindy made it on there, Cindy Crosby. And then, of course, Wangari Maathai, right here, who is, I think people will know who she is, because she passed away in 2011. She had cancer, but she was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and she's from Kenya, and she's responsible for basically like organizing communities to reforest areas that had been deforested. So they, like in the 70s, 80s, and maybe even later, I don't remember, she had been away to go to school to study. She became she was a veterinarian, and she studied all sorts of like natural sciences. And when she had come back home from being abroad, she came from a rural part of Kenya, and she, like, entire swaths of where she lived had been deforested. And so it really affected the lives of local people. There's another fantastic documentary I'll link below called Taking Root. If you want to, like, restore your faith in humanity, this is like a documentary you just have to watch. She's a very inspirational person to hear. So I'll link it below. Check it out. If you need if you're in between floss tubes and you want something else to watch, I highly recommend Taking Root. So anyway, Wangari Maathai, she documented like the problems that people had as a result of losing their forests. Like these were people who cultivated but also relied on the wood from forests to like build and cook and things like that. So she organized people to like go into whatever little tiny bits of existing forest were left, collect seeds, and then they just planted trees, like masses and masses amount of trees, and they like reforested entire sections of that country. So she's just the coolest person. Like it's such a simple idea, but she like started a movement, you know? So those are the four initials that I put in. And then all I did was I took leafy motifs from all of these central medallions and I filled up the space. So there's tons and tons of plants. I kind of wonder if that's why Beatrix Potter collected this piece, because like almost every medallion has some sort of interesting leafy or floral thing going on there. So I just took like the leafy, viney bits that I really liked, and I filled up the space with all of that. So there it is. It's done. I had thought about maybe making it a like finished for now, and then going back in and filling in even more of the space that's left there with like even more leaves, and make it so that like their initials would just be completely surrounded, like all of this would be filled in. But I'm not sure if that would look cluttered. I guess I need your opinion on that. Should I go in and really go for it and fill in all of the remaining spaces with more leafy bits so that the only things you can really see are their initials? Or should I just call it a day? Would that look too messy? I kind of think both would look good, but I'm unsure what to do on that. So I guess it kind of is a finished for now, and I'll think on that. So yay, that was so fun. Julie, thanks for thinking of doing that as a sal, because I actually had it in my stash, this pattern. I didn't have any plans to start it, and now like I have this really cool thing. This is really good fun to stitch on. So that's that. Okay, whips and new starts. Let me just get a few things and we'll be right back. Okay, so let's talk about some whips. Okay, so remember how when I showed you that Tirazain initiative, the Moon and Star earlier? Let me take that out actually, because I have some new starts on it. You know, this one? I have other new starts on this that I'll show you in a sec, but remember how I talked about the étoile and how I wasn't crazy about stitching on that étoile? It helped me make a decision about what to do with my Trans Pride Tapestry. So this is by D's 20 Stitches. It's on 18 count Sweet Tea by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers, and it's using the called for DMC. And so I had started stitching the unicorn in a little bit of diamant, which you can still see like a stray bit of it right here. But, you know, after that étoile experience, I thought there's no way I'm going to stitch, because this is enormous, like the entire body of the unicorn would be an étoile, so I said no. So, I just went through my DMC stash and kind of thought about some colors, and this is DMC 778. It's, technically like an ultra light mauve, so it's an ultra light purpley pink, and it's got, tones that I think kind of match the rest of what's going on without conflicting. You know, it doesn't seem like it's out of place. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I just settled on plain old DMC cotton. It'll be easy to find if I need more of it, which I definitely will. I don't think one skein will be enough. And it's very pleasing to look at. I love that color. It's looking very pink on screen, but it's more of like a, how do you describe it? It's got like purple undertones to it. It's a pink with a purpley undertone to it. So super happy with that. Isn't that fabric so nice? I have good light on it today so you can actually see it in all its glory. So this again is Sweet Tea by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. And then it's just the called for DMC. It's all these beautiful teal shades. with some like light blues and pinks in there too. So now I'm super excited because this will be really easy. Like on this piece, if you can get all the borders in for different motifs, even like in the body, if I can get the contours of the body, the outline done, then there's a lot of really easy fill-in stitching. So I'm really excited for that because I feel like I can make good progress on that project. So that again is Trans Pride Tapestry by D's 20 Stitches and Uncanny Kari. The artwork is by Uncanny Kari. Okay, next whip is, I'll show you this one because I had a page finish, two more page finishes on birds from Bernard's books, and this is by Modern Folk Embroidery, and it's a 9-page pattern, and so I have 4 pages done now. So I finished the middle motif. So you're seeing the table and more of the bottom border filled in, and the vase with the flowers is all coming in there. Doesn't it look so nice? This is on 40 Count Truffle by Picture This Plus, and DMC 221 is the shade. I love this shade. You know, one of my wish list items, although I'm really trying not to buy any specialty flosses or anything. I have too much in my stash. But down the road, if I ever need it, I really love Mrs. Sadus has a beautiful deep red shade called Rouge. And I think it's this. It's a lot like this. This is the DMC equivalent. Because this is technically like ultra dark shell pink, but it really doesn't look pink. It's definitely like a red, like a brownish red. It's pretty true to what you're seeing there. So it is an awesome red, I think. Really cool red. I definitely want to stitch more with this color. I'm loving it. So, hoping to get another page finish in, maybe. Just kind of keep chipping away. I don't usually work with page finishes, but for some reason it's just working on this. I think part of it is because the pattern, I printed it out. I'm working on, it's a digital pattern that I'm highlighting as I go along, and it just happens to be 9 pages, and it's just easy to have 1 page out and just work on that page. But I usually don't stitch that way. I'll just find a motif I like and stitch that and just kind of work motif to motif. But so this I'm stitching on because it's part of my sale, queued up sale. I'm kind of choosing normally, except for this month when I went, I've been stitching all these smalls, which I shouldn't be doing. I should be sticking to my plan. But anyway, my plan is to stitch on whips that are connected to future projects that I have queued up. But before I give myself permission to start the new project, I'm finishing the related whip. So if I can finish this one, this is my whip that has a lot of negative stitching and all that border is negative stitching. So if I can finish this, then I have lined up Mermaid's Folly, which I have a paper copy of that pattern, and I don't know, I keep meaning to leave it here to just be able to hold it up so I don't have to stick a picture in. But I'll just have to stick a picture in. But you've seen it, it's like an enormous negative stitching piece. And so before I start that one, I want to finish this one. So super happy with that progress. I'm using 2 strands over 2 on that 40 count. And so it's got nice full coverage. I love it. Looks really good. No gaps, with fabric poking out or anything. I kind of felt like I had to use 2 strands because this fabric is so lightly colored. I tried a little bit with 1 strand and it was just too much, like you could see too much of the fabric behind it. So 2 strands it is. Okay, so next one I can show you. I did a little bit. I should be doing a lot. Like I need to pause everything and work on this. This is by Little House Needleworks, and it's the Farmhouse Christmas series. And I'm stitching this as a gift to my friend Melanie, who loves barns. And so I did quite a bit on this barn right here. It's very cute, isn't it? It's very charming to look at. And I got a little sheep that came in there. So I'll show you, did I bring these up? Yes, I did. I brought the patterns up so you can see what the 4 will look like eventually. Okay, so this is Little Red Barn that I made the most progress on. So these are all, it's a series called Farmhouse Christmas by Little House Needleworks. So I thought this is the barn she's going to love the most, I think. And then it has that little cardinal and these cute sheep. So that's what this bit is here. And then next to that, this quilt, it's a little bit of a quilt square that's coming in, is this Grandma's quilt. So that'll go next. Ooh, I gotta make sure. Sorry, I think I showed you a blip of a pattern there. And then there's another barn, this Baba Black Sheep. So we'll have some more sheep, more barn, more sheep. And then this one here is Cock-a-doodle-doo. So I gotta work on this because I was meaning to like get this framed and get it to my friend Melanie this month because she has kind of a big book event. She writes, and so she has a book coming out in June, and we're going to an event related to that, and so I wanted to give this to her before then. So I basically need to get a move on. And I'm stitching it with the called for Classic Colorworks. And I'm using a little, there's one color where I'm using a little bit of DMC, but I'm going to run out of the Classic Colorworks. So now I'm trying to decide, I really don't want to keep buying more specialty floss. So what I'm thinking of doing for the white, like that white is a specialty floss. I think I'm just going to substitute a DMC. And if I run out of it, it's like very lightly variegated. You can barely tell. So I'm just going to match whatever DMC is the closest and stitch the rest of that white. There's a lot more white in all of the patterns. I'm just going to use whatever DMC I got. And then the red is the one that's a Classic Colorworks. It's Cherry Cobbler. So I'm thinking maybe if I can use the Cherry Cobbler on this barn, then in all the other patterns I'll just make it a different, I'll use whatever DMC red I have. And I'm going to see if I can get away with that. This, I don't know if I can get away with it because I think this tan might be a Classic Colorworks too. I can't remember if I substituted it with DMC. I have to look at my little baggie and see what I did. But you know, if I have to get specialty floss, then I have to order it from 123 Stitch, and then that'll take a little bit of time, so it's going to delay me. And I also just don't want to keep shopping for flosses right now. I want to try to use what I have, so I'll figure something out. That one. So I'm hoping to get that like framed and ready to go this month. But it will be a challenge because I have so many other distractions. Okay, next whip is also by Dee and Kari. So this is the Let's Make a Statement #2. So this top part here it's part of a banner series. It looks like it could be stitched to make like bunting, and each one has a message about trans rights. So this top one was Make a Statement 1. And then this here is Make a Statement 2. What's it going to say? It's trans folks always have been and will be is what the rest of it will say. So I started on it, and I just pulled a blue and a pink from my DMC stash, and I'm kind of using the same colors and a DMC 310 throughout. And I'm trying to stitch all of them on one. This is a longish piece. This is 14 Count Heroic by Picture This Plus. This was gifted to me by Alicia Resist Stitch, and it's 14 count, so I'm using 3 strands of DMC. And even sometimes, like on the black, you won't see it because I can't get detailed, like I can't zoom in. But even with 3 strands, some of the DMC 310, the fabric pokes through, but whatever. I'm just going with it. And yeah, so I want to stitch everything on one piece instead of doing bunting, and then maybe turn this into like a project bag, or maybe gift it to Brave Space Alliance. Maybe I'll do like I don't know. I'm thinking through what I want to do with this when it's done. But it has room for maybe one more of the banners. And then I was thinking about using the side spaces too, like turning them sideways and stitching like half of the banner, like splitting up the banner messages, stitching them across. Here is, it's the start of a moth called Rise Up by Bad Stitched. They were doing a fundraiser for Trans Lifeline, which is a hotline, a crisis hotline for trans folks. So on this month for Trans Visibility Day, they had done a fundraiser for that, and they were giving away this moth pattern to anybody who donated. So I put that started going in here. And then I have an idea of doing, is it by Pixel Pixie? I can't remember now who does it, but one of the, in that Stitchers Collective, the big Earth Day fundraiser initiative, where you get like a whole mess of patterns. So I donated for that, and I got the patterns, and I think it's Pixel Pixie who has the little bug, and it says Biodiversity Matters. I was maybe thinking of putting that bug on here with these same colors, and then putting Trans Visibility Matters. I'm playing around with that. I haven't like spaced it out yet to see if it fits. So that's thinking about that. But anyway, so these banners are coming along great. I know Dee's taking from what it sounds like, they're taking a little break from doing stitchy stuff that's trans rights related, because I'm sure it's emotionally exhausting and heavy. And sometimes you just want to stitch like fun stuff, stitch and design fun stuff. So for right now, I'm glad I'm doing this, and I am excited to see what other patterns come up, because I think they're really powerful. They're like, they've managed to put very powerful words into like a very short message, you know. So I like that. Okay. Speaking of the Earth Day, the Stitchers Collective. Hang on, I want to check. I want to see if I missed anything. Stitches. Birds and Bernard's books. Farmhouse Christmas. Okay. Yes. So we're kind of moving into new starts here, so I'm just going to run with that. Okay, so I started 2 pieces from that Stitchers Collective. There were 3 that when I saw them, I said I must start all of these right now. And I thought I could finish them this month, and that was like not a reality at all. But that's okay. So this one is by Quaternion Creations, and it's Gaia. And you'll have to envision she's holding like the earth right here. So you can see some of the continents popping up. So there's a globe here, and then the rest of her dress, and more hair, I think, and then some like star motifs all around. So this was one of the ones I wanted to start, and even more importantly, well, it's a beautiful pattern, but personally, even more importantly, this very same fabric and floss combination. So this is Picture This plus Jade. It's an 18 count Ada, and it's DMC 3808. I have to double check that. I think it's 3808. It's like the dark, it's that line of teals, and it's the darkest one. It's the same one that is like the darkest tone on Trans Pride visibility. Like all these outlines. Is that the same one? Nope. It's actually one that's even darker. It's the next darkest one, but it's in that same line. The DMC 3808, 09, 10, like that line is teals, and whatever one is the darkest one. I think it's 3808. Anyway, this fabric and floss combo is what I have lined up for my Courtney collection, the Mermaid's Folly, that huge negative stitching piece that I want to start after I finish Birds from Bernard's books. It's with this exact color combo, because I have an enormous, I think it's a 1 yard piece of this, Picture This plus Jade. And so I don't want to get any more fabric, because I have that yard that's been sitting around for ages. I thought I was going to cut it up and use it, but I kept it whole. So now I think it'll fit that, I have to double check, but I think it'll fit that very large Mermaid's Folly piece. And I wanted to do color on color with it. So I just kind of played around with this, and then I picked up, back when I was at the DMC aisle, I picked up, I think it's DMC 924. It's like very dark gray green. Because I was worried, the whole time I was thinking, will this be dark enough? Will this floss be dark enough to create contrast? Because it's a negative stitching piece, that Courtney collection piece. So you have to be able to see the contrast. And it's totally perfect, isn't it? I think it works great. Like you can see kind of the lines in her hair and the detail in her hair up here. So it's going to be fine. So I'm so glad I tested that out. And now I know what color I want to use for that piece too. So this is good fun. And I think it should be an easy, this was like 2 nights of stitching. So if I put in a couple more nights stitching, I think I could finish it for next month. So that again was Quaternion Creations, and it's Gaia is the name of the pattern. And then of course, actually, let me show you one more thing related to that. So when I had been shopping with Maryam last month, we went to House of Stitches and had a real fun time. And so one of the things, we both kind of picked up some experimental stuff. So one of the things I picked up was this scrap of this shaker cloth, 18 count shaker cloth. I don't know what shaker cloth is used for. If you know, let me know. I'm super curious. But it's basically a very kind of loose weave of linen. I guess it's linen. It looks like linen. And it's 18 count. So you stitch on it 1/1. So it's got these huge gaps in it because it's 18 count. And you just stitch on it over 1. I guess you could stitch on it over 2, but you probably have to use like yarn if you're going to do that, because it's so big. The stitches are so big. So then I had gotten this. Oh, I should have brought it up. I didn't bring it. I had, both Maryam and I had picked up a Karen Water Lilies like I had picked up one that had greens and oranges in it, and Maryam picked up one, I think it's called Ruby. It has like these deep purples and blues in it. Really pretty, but neither one of us knew really what to do with it, so we both have been kind of just wondering about that. I know Maryam mentioned it in her recent Flosstube too. So I was just thinking, like, could you stitch on this shaker cloth? It's a 3-ply thread, but even when you split the 1-ply off of it, or the, not 3-ply, 3 strands. So it's a very thick thread, and you can take through, it splits into 3 strands. But it's still very thick. It's too thick for this shaker cloth. So I was starting Gaia with that, watercolors, Karen watercolors. And it was going fine until you get into like this fillet. When there's bits where you have a lot of stitches together, it just does not work. Aren't those colors pretty though? It's those oranges and greens. So let me know if anyone knows, like, what do you do with Karen watercolors? Because I have, I picked up 2 skeins of that stuff, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm like steps away from trying to crochet with it at this point because it's that thick. I feel like I could do something like that, but I don't really know what to do. So then I was like, well, what do I do now with the shaker cloth? Let me try something else on it. So I have in my stash, I've had this hand-dyed Rolanda by Rolanda. Isn't that pretty? Check that out. It's a hand-painted cotton, a 50-yard hand-painted cotton. It's really, really pretty. And I thought, okay, it's got some blues and greens in it. Maybe I could use that for Gaia, you know, an Earth Day themed piece. So it actually worked great. 2 strands of cotton on this shaker cloth is beautiful. It's perfect. But I made a mistake, not in the counts or anything, but with something that's this variegated, I'm not really a fan of doing like stripes, especially if there's like like a person motif like this. I want it to be more like patches of color. So I love, like, in the top of her hair here, it's how it's like patches of those different colors and not stripes across. But then I totally forgot. I was like not paying attention, and when I started doing the rest of her hair, I made it stripy and I wasn't liking it. So I stopped. I didn't want to waste any more of that thread, and I didn't want to pick it out and redo it. So I said, okay, well, I'll just hold this. So now I know at least I can use 2 strands of just a regular cotton floss on this shaker cloth. It looks really pretty. It's got good coverage. It's nice to be able to stitch 1/1 on linen, because then it's like stitching on Ada. It's super comfy. And I have a pretty decent like piece of it left. So maybe next time, anytime I'm starting, like next time I start small, maybe I'll pull this out and see if I can stitch it on there. Okay, so then I did start one other piece from that Stitchers Collective. And it's, of course, Maryam's piece. The other one I really liked is that greenwashing. It's like a mandala, greenwashing mandala with different leaf motifs. I like that one too, but I didn't start that one this month. So this is Mother Earth by Maryam. And I've just barely started on it. And I originally started on it with this Threadworks here. It's some kind of like a lime variegated thread, and I really liked it, but I just thought it felt too washed out against this fabric. This fabric is 40 count Nocturne by Picture This Plus. I thought it looked kind of oceany, doesn't it? It is like a deep blue, like a gray blue. And I knew I wanted to use blue, and I knew I wanted to use green for the stitching. So then I just pulled a DMC. This is 38, let me see if I wrote it down, 3818 DMC. So it'll be easy. No, I'm just not feeling like the energy of trying to figure out what to do with variegated threads. I think I'm definitely feeling that. I have beautiful variegated threads in my stash, but I feel like they require some attention, like intention and attention to stitch with. And I just don't feel like that right now. So went with this it's like a bright green DMC 3818. I love stitching on this pattern. It's super easy. On this 40 count, again, 2 strands on this 40 count Picture This Plus, and it's got like beautiful, perfect coverage. So I'm loving it. I think I'm really excited about this. And I'll have leftover fabric too, so it'll fit on this, like with the width of this fabric, so I'll have a whole nother flap of it left to do something else. Maybe I'll do greenwashing on the other side. I don't know how big that one is. So yay, Maryam, thanks for another cool pattern. Love this one. Okay. I do have a couple more items to show you. then that's it. My plans are just to like try to finish another whip, so I don't even have anything to say for plans, but I'll show you my other two new starts. Okay, so these are actually on the same piece of, oh no, I do, actually, I'm going to tell you something right now before I show you these because I don't want to forget it. What did I just do with it? Hang on. Oh, here it is. I got more Stitchy Kindness this month from Sarah. So Sarah is Mod Cross on Etsy. She's a designer, cross-stitch designer, and a good friend of mine. And she has a floss tube, Mod Cross floss tube. And she recently came out with the companion piece for Marigold, which I show you like almost every time. In almost all my videos, I've been showing you Marigold. This is on Picture This Plus Woodland is the color. It's a 32 count Woodland by Picture This Plus. And I've been waiting and waiting and waiting because there's a companion piece to this that Sarah's been working on based on a pansy. So these are both based on photos of flowers from Sarah's garden. So Sarah has a photo of a pansy that she turned into a pattern and she released it this month. So she sent me a copy and you can get it in Sarah's Etsy shop too. And I just love it. It's got all these beautiful purples. She stitched it on a, I'm pretty sure that's a Fortnite Luminous Warmth, I think. That yellow fabric. I loved it on this. I love this Marigold, like these contrasting colors on this green. So I actually have another piece of that. I bought two at the same time because Sarah told me she had been working on a companion piece to it. So I've been like anticipating that piece of fabric has just been waiting. So Sarah sent me not only the pattern, but she kitted up the DMC floss for it. Aren't those colors so pretty? So I can't wait to start that. This is going to be this Marigold. I did a lot of stitching on this last summer, just sitting in the yard, summer stitching, you know, sitting in the yard, looking at my plants and stitching. And then I actually grew Marigold in the garden because I knew I was going to try to finish this last summer and I wanted the real flower with the stitched one. And so now I'm trying to do the same thing with this. So I just started a couple weeks ago. I put in I have these like little humidity domes and I did some seeds for pansies. So I really hope they come up. I want to have just one pansy that I can take a picture with when I finish this pansy. I hope that kind of coincides, you know. So, thanks, Sarah. I love it. I can't wait to start it. There's some really beautiful, like, what is this? 36-0 something. This kind of pinky purple right here. Isn't that pretty? I can't wait to stitch with that. And it's going to look really good on that green also. Those colors are going to look good. I can't wait. It's going to be perfect, too, because, like, it looks like when you see the dark purple. I bet, is that 550? I don't know if that's DMC 550. Yeah, of course it is. The dark purple is DMC 550. I love that color. It's a great, like, for monochromatic stitching. That's a pretty color. And you just when you see that, you think, like, oh, but that won't contrast very well with the dark fabric. But all the dark bits are in the center. And it's all these light, like white and light purples that are that are going to be touching the fabric. So I think that's going to be a beautiful contrast. So can't wait to start that. Okay, I wanted to mention that because it's been sitting here and I don't want to forget it. Thanks, Sarah. Can't wait. Okay. I started another small on the same fabric from Maryam, 18 count Barnwood by Picture This Plus. And I just got the ever so tiniest start on it. And actually the floss is from Maryam too. This is, so this is Closely Kept #2 by Shaded Stitchery. It's what I think is going to be a series of smalls based on little tin type artwork from like leftover memorabilia that's at the Smithsonian Institution. And so this motif was on a picture frame that a black person had a picture of like a family member, and now the people are not known, the people in the pictures are not known, but these like little tin type frames with these motifs and these photographs have been collected by the Smithsonian Museum. So Nuri at Shaded Stitchery is making little cross stitch smalls out of the floral motifs on those. So this is so pretty, and I was going with like a color on color thing with this, and both of these were gifted to me by Maryam. So this is that same piece of Barnwood that the moon and stars are on this piece too. And then one of Maryam's go-to colors is this sulky dark chestnut, 1189. which I'm actually using on my old All Souls Verlanden by Quiltify Designs. I should have brought it down to show you, but I'll show you another time. And so I think this looks amazing, doesn't it? So what I'm thinking of doing I think it actually goes this way. What I'm thinking of doing with these, there are 2 smalls that Marie has designed so far from Shaded Stitchery. There are 2 of them so far, and I'm hoping there will be more, because I think I'm just going to make it like a spot sampler and put them all on one piece. So this is one, this is like the top right side of it. So imagine this mirrored here, and then both of that mirrored here. So that's what that looks like. And then there's one that's like a flower on a stem. I'll put that next to it, and just kind of I'll leave room for more to go in there as more designs come up. So I really hope there'll be more in that series. So I'm using just 1 strand of Sulky over 18 count Aida. Barnwood is kind of like a magical fabric. I've stitched a lot of stuff on Barnwood, and I keep turning back to it. Maryam, you couldn't have picked a more perfect color. I think it showcases bright colors really beautifully. It's like a dark neutral, and it just shows like anything flash, any bright colors look good on it, but also dark colors look good on it too. Like this looks good on it, and this looks good on it, right? They both show up really beautifully. So it's kind of a magical fabric. I'll show you I actually pulled 2 other pieces where I'm using Barnwood right now. From my whips, and I'll show you those too. So this is real. I had to dig real deep in my whips to find this one. This is Lovebirds by Autumn Lane Stitchery, and it was in a Just Cross Stitch magazine. I want to say it was like February 2021. And so this is on a Barnwood 18 count, and I'm using B5200 DMC. I had tried out some other colors in here. Those will all get pulled out. I decided not to use those because the white just looks so good. It looks like a sugar cookie or something. So I did a little bit of work on it. I had only done this part before, so I filled out all this part this month. Just got on after stitching on the Barnwood piece from Maryam, I just grabbed all my other stuff that was on Barnwood and just took a closer look. And then this one I didn't stitch on, but this is by 2x2 Stitch Art, and it's using color that Ilona's a Ukrainian designer, so I was stitching on one of her pieces with Ukrainian flag colors. So these are different blues and yellows from Sulky, but I wanted to show you this one because Barnwood looks amazing on linen too. So this is what the linen looks like. So like this was the Aida, also beautiful. And then this is the linen, also beautiful. And see what I mean? Like these bright colors just look so good on this fabric. I love the linen actually because it has, when they dye it, they put in like purples and blues too. So you can't really see it, but if you take a close, like when I look at it down here, I can see blue all over it. It's awesome. It's really pretty fabric. Okay, that was a little sidebar, Barnwood sidebar. Okay, one last piece I want to show you. So you can kind of see over here, this is Cottage Garden Samplings. It's Autumn Dream by Cottage Garden Samplings, and I finished it in December. And so that marked the 2nd December where I finished a Cottage Garden piece. So I was kind of thinking I'd like to do that every December, just kind of chip away at have a Cottage Garden piece in the works and then try to finish it, have it be a December finish. And so I didn't have one in the works, so I started one. And I put it on Picture This plus Barnwood. So this is also on the fabric that Maryam gave me. So on one side is Moon and Star. And on this side, you're starting to see the beginnings of a little snowman. So this is the Needleworker. And I just think it's so cute. And just imagine all those bright colors. Look at all those bright. It's got, it's charted for the DMC. It's like, you know, the 350 series. It's like the coral pinks, the corally orange pinks. Those are called for in here. It's going to look so good. So I got just a little bit of his face started. And I changed out, I didn't have all the called for colors, so I'm not using any of the specialty floss. No, that's not true. I had some of the called for colors and some of it I substituted because, what was it? So the red, this red here, was supposed to actually be DMC 221, which I'm using in Birds from Bernard's book, so I do have it, but it just didn't look quite as bright on this. So I went with a different, I want to say this is like 816 or 817, just something that stood out a little bit better. But everything else is called for. So that'll be fun. I'm just going to kind of chip away at little bits of it and then work it to a point where, like, in December, this is going to be the thing I work on and finish. So we will see how that goes. We'll see if I can have another year of finishing a cottage garden piece. I actually really like, I didn't think I would like the snowman series, and now I don't have in my stash, but there are 3 that I want to do from this series. One of them is a really cute, it's a snowman on a penny farthing, and I think it's like a postal worker. They're delivering mail. There's one, I think it's the one that just came out. It has like it's gardening. I think it's like watering a garden or something like that. That one looked really cute. There are so many. And then, like, there are so many cottage garden pieces that are just beautiful. It was really hard to choose. I also picked out, in a different, like a birds and flowers series, there's Strawberry Harvest, which is this beautiful pink bird sitting with strawberries. So it's hard to decide, but I went with this one. I wanted to see how all those orangey pinks would work out, those corals on this fabric. So stay tuned on that one. I think that's it. My plans are just to be focused and try to finish my gift stitching and a whip. Try to finish a whip. Maybe I'll work on that. This Lovebirds could be a realistic finish this month. It's really like this. This is the center and the topmost point, and it's almost this, like right down here is the bottommost point. So it's pretty small actually. It just has a lot of like intricate lacy kind of stitching in there, so it takes a little bit of time, but that could be a possibility for this month too. Or Maryam's earth piece, or I don't know. There's so many possibilities for things to finish. I want to finish something. Okay, yeah, that's it. Thank you for hanging today. And yeah, that's all I got. Let me know what you think about like the garden chat, and then let me know what you think about my Beatrix Potter piece. I'd be curious to hear from you what you think about how to fill in the rest of that bit, or whether or not to fill in the rest of that with more leaves. Curious to know what you think about that. Hope you're getting lots of stitchy time, or outdoors time, or relaxation time, or whatever kind of time you want. And I'm going to check back in with you in another month. And until then, hope you have a good time. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for visiting. I'll talk to you soon.